This fall, the brightest minds in finance will flock to Florida for a weekend that will change your life, with insights from the brightest stars in the financial universe and an event that will bring them all together. Presenting the first annual T3 Live Finance Festival at the Mayfair Hotel and Spa in Coconut Grove, Florida, for a weekend you'll never forget and memories that will last a lifetime. The Finance Festival, a Todd Harrison production, brought to you by T3 Live and TradeStation. A portion of the proceeds to benefit the Ruby Peck Foundation for Children's Education and the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. Friday, November 6th, Sunday, November 8th, 2015. Bring your spouse, tell your friends, make some noise, and take charge of your financial future. It's gonna be nuts. Space is limited, so act fast. Early bird discount registration ends August 31st, 2015.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Daily Recap. I'm Evan Lazarus. I'm CEO of T3 Live. And what a day it was. It was I don't want to mislead or misguide, but it certainly was a quiet day relative to what we've seen pretty much the entire day in terms of the general index. As we look at the SPY here, was built around this morning's gap up. And this morning, the last couple of days have been incredibly gap-driven. As I zoom in here and show you some detailed time frames, here's a 5-minute, gapping down, gapping up, and again today, gapping up. That's not necessarily bullish price action. As you really want to see, for the bullish argument, you really want to see stocks, reverse and power higher rather than, gap up the way they're doing. It is definitely a difficult trading tape for those that are seeking follow through from one trading day to the next. As we look at today, today was the day where, we got the gap up, but it didn't do a whole heck of a lot. As we go back to that 5-minute, you can see in this whole body of candlesticks, gapping up, selling off in the first hour, finding some short-term support, rallying back, and kind of basically closing, not too far off from where it opened. So I wouldn't necessarily call today any sort of powerful rally, but we did see, higher prices based off of yesterday's close. So we close out the week, and as we go to the weekly chart, we close out the week with today's gap up, relatively on the highs of the week, and a test here of this lower support band. We spent, and I talked about this in yesterday's recap, and if you didn't get a chance to watch, I would encourage to do so. We spent a lot of time in this range, and I don't think we're just going to break out of it, in one fall swoop. We could spend another couple of weeks, building more structure in this range. Now, I do think that the bearish argument is that we stay below the midpoint, let's call it, of this upper and lower, of this, lower support level and this upper resistance band. I think the bearish argument is that over the next week, 2 weeks, we continue to hover in this range. That range really more granularly defined as, the range you're seeing kind of build here over the last couple of days. That to me is sort of this new range, and I would even use last week's high as a pivot point, and you have a descending 21 EMA here. This could be a very powerful force if and when this market does, when these two, when price meets into this declining moving average. So next week, certainly this week was very choppy, big intraday swings, big gaps, a little bit of chaos within a certain range, but the range in terms of intraday is definitely starting to expand. You can see volume levels starting to come up, and that's uncertainty and that's volatility, and that ultimately is a bit of fear. So this is a very interesting trading scenario, and over the next couple of sessions, week, maybe 2 weeks or so, I think this could develop into something that is the precursor of something more substantial. And again, I talked about that in yesterday's recap. If you didn't get a chance, please, I implore you, look, I may not always be right, but I'm going to tell you the way I see it. And ultimately, the market's going to prove itself at some point, at some time during some day. I am not a fortune teller. What I am is a a risk analyst. I study price movement so that I can make determinations about when and where risk is the least, so then I can make tradable decisions. That's really the nature of what we do here at T3 Live. And while sometimes you may get different opinions from one person to the next, ultimately what matters most is what the market tells us. It's not about being a bull. It's not about being a bear. It's not even about being right. It's about understanding risk and when that story and the landscape of the land has changed. There are certain bullish, segments out there today. Just a trade we saw in Bristol Myers, right? So you're seeing Bristol Myers sit at highs, and there are very selective areas where you're seeing strength. Netflix gapping up today and back to highs. Now, not necessarily a great intraday trade to the upside, but a stock that's still sitting at or near its highs. You've definitely seen a deterioration in banks. I've been watching banks for the last couple of weeks and starting to weaken, if you would. Retailers still continue to look weak, although we did see a little bit of a snapback. Walmart, very, very weak. But on the other side, you have Target, and Target kind of sitting in the upper zone and potentially could be, gearing up for another trade higher. So it is very much a market of, and I've said this before, haves and have-nots. You really got to approach your trading in this tape with selectivity and a very sharp understanding of when and where you want to be involved, whether you're a swing trader, a day trader, or you're trading options. You really got to know what it is you're looking for and what time frame you live on. With volatility picking up, obviously that creates, larger ranges, but also creates opportunity. And I talked about this a bit yesterday. Active traders, people that are, actively buying and selling securities on a day-to-day, week-to-week, or you're watching the market, pretty closely. This is, this represents pockets where stocks will move. And when stocks move, be it up or down, it represents opportunity. And I've been trying to beat the drum on this, that this is, these are the times where active market participants, if they're sharp and they're educated and they have a good foundation of what, where, and when and why, then you should see, you should be thriving. That's my take. I know that obviously what makes a market is that there's two sides to every story, and for every winner, there's a loser. For every buyer, there's a seller. So I'm sure there's some of you that are probably going to watch this video and say, what the hell is he talking about? But that's, again, from my lens and the way I look at the markets and the way I see things, I see opportunity. If you're objective, if you're flexible, and you're willing to change as price, structure, and volume components change. The market is never going to be easy. The market's job is to fool most of the people most of the time. So if you're one of those that's chasing price down, you're shorting on the lows, you're buying on the highs, and you're chasing this market, then you are going to get hurt. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get roughed up, and it's going to sting. But if you're structured, you know when and where to step in, you're shorting bounces into declining averages, you're waiting for trades to come to you, you're selecting stocks that are, have the right setups and scenarios to either go lower or go higher, then I think you're going to be in the right, you're going to wind up stepping into better situations more times than not. Today was a relatively quiet day. Obviously, there's always trades here and there, and there's opportunity. But relative, like I said, we closed pretty much right where we opened, and there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity from an index perspective. I know China's been obviously on everybody's radar. As we look at Shanghai Exchange, and I talked about this, yesterday in the recap, I said that I thought that it was in a buyable zone, right? Into its prior breakout, into the 200 EMA, and you got that, you got that snapback today, pretty much textbook. Now, I'm not saying it was an easy trade, but I know a lot of traders out there that are looking to trade this via maybe the FXI or some other instrument. You got that bottoming type of trade. You can see the ascending volume here as this stock, or as this ETF, I should say, fell out of bed, climactic volume, and then we get that, snapback. There is opportunity, like I say, if you are strategic, structured, and you have a good foundation from which you know when to buy, when to sell, and when to execute. I'm going to leave it at that. everybody saw the Finance Festival. We launched that this week. I'm super excited, as I said yesterday, about that weekend in November. It's going to be a weekend that will be very, very memorable in terms of networking and the social side and the content, and just to kind of rub elbows with everybody and be a community. Very much excited towards it. T3live.com/festival. Have a nice weekend, everyone.